Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a first impressions video for you. Today we are looking at a knife that I've wanted to get my hands on for a while. This is the extra large Voyager. I've had the 4 inch for, I reviewed it quite a long time ago. I've reviewed the clip point Voyager in the past, just a classic cold steel, and I've wanted to have the drop point for a while, the extra large drop point for a while, and just hadn't gotten around to it. So without further ado, here is the knife in question. This is a monstrosity, although it's not as crazy huge as an XL, a Spada or something. There are some larger knives out there, but this is definitely a substantial knife. I will say it kind of lands in an interesting spot because it's not, as I said, it's large, but it's not gigantic, like outlandishly huge to where it's overly bulky or impractical, which is a little bit of a different genre, I guess. It's almost like, it's a large usable folding knife where, the XL Espada is a large usable knife, but it's not practical for most people. But this is actually pretty carryable. I've carried this a little bit around the house while I was preparing for this video, just because I wanted to be able to share that in my first impressions. And it's surprisingly comfortable to carry in just regular pants, which to me is a pretty substantial first impression for a knife of this size. All right, so the other thing I've got to say before we carry on with that part of the discussion is the fact that the Voyager is so good, right? I think this is one of those knives that gets kind of overlooked a little bit, but because it's on the larger side, like even the standard size Voyager is still 4 inches, which is big for a lot of people, but it is honestly, as a reviewer, that's one of the easiest knives to recommend. They're not expensive. They're built like a tank. The lock is so stupidly strong that, someone who's, not a big knife person is one, because they've probably seen a buck 110. They're going to be, they're comfortable with a back lock already. But you also know, even if they do something stupid, it's not going to close on them. It's going to be grippy. It's going to be effective as a tool. It's going to be, the steel is AUS 10A, so it's going to do most of what they need to get done. And when they have to sharpen it, it's not going to be impossible to sharpen. Like, there's so many good things about the Voyager. Um, that this is a knife that I often put on my short list of, if I was going to recommend, if someone said, hey Kevin, I'm looking at 2 or 3 different knives, I want something reasonable budget. The other area this thing shines is, in a hard use role, a tactical role, an outdoor survival type role. This is a knife that doesn't cost a lot of money, but man, if you're trying to do like a small size survival kit or something where you want a folding knife to get that size down, man, what a perfect role for this knife. If you want a knife that you can just do everything from, you know, skinning filleting fish to, dealing with game, outdoor bushcrafting type stuff, like just anything you can think of, even stuff that's going to be outside of the possibility of the realm of most typical folding knives. The Voyager can do it. And, yeah, I know the Recon 1 can do it, and I know the 8010 can do it, and a number of other cold steels, but a lot of people, if you say to someone, the Recon One is the best cold steel, that's what you should buy, they're going to go online and Google it and be like, what the heck? I don't want to spend that kind of money for a knife. But if you recommend a Voyage, they're going to be like, oh yeah, no big deal. It's a little more than maybe I initially, like, I think the standard version, the 4 inch, is like $75. So yeah, not everyone's going to want to spend $75 on a pocket knife, but someone who wants a serious tool, they definitely are happy to spend that. All right. So I know that's a long introduction, but um, I wanted to say all that just to sort of put the Voyager in its proper context. I really think it's an underappreciated knife. And now, having said all of that, okay, I want to come and look at this particular version. All right. we have OS-10 steel with a stonewash blade drop point, making this very broadly utilitarian. Like there's not much that you're going to need to do with a knife that this couldn't do, from kitchen stuff to outdoor survival stuff to tactical stuff. Like it's just a really really nicely balanced blade, and the OS-10A that Cold Steel uses is very very effective. So from a utility standpoint, this blade, there's nothing that a person could really complain about. I guess if you wanted a higher end steel, yeah, you could go up to the S35 VN in some of the other, a large Recon One or an XL Leak Recon One or an XL Espada or something like that. But frankly, you know, this is really really appealing, and the performance is very, like, Aus-10 steel is very good performing steel. All right, moving on. We've got just standard cold steel pivot here, nothing special about that. Triad lock. So again, most of us are familiar with the triad lock. If you are watching this and you're not a big cold steel guy, you're not maybe a big knife guy, the triad lock is very very strong, and the reason it's strong is because it is designed so that the stress that's put on the lock is kind of shared with the rest of the structure, so that the forces are distributed quite effectively, and we end up with a knife lock that is really unparalleled. Like I'm not going to rehash all of the comparison videos that have been done, but we've all seen those Andrew Demko videos where he's just bashing the crap out of these knives, and the lock just performs so well. So it's not a replacement for a fixed blade, but man, it's the closest thing that you can get in a folding knife to replacement for a fixed blade. This is not the strongest version of this lock, is probably the 4 Max or the 5 Max, but nonetheless, this is a very, very strong, reliable lock that you don't have to worry about. I will say a lot of people will complain about one thing, and that is the firmness of this lock. Look how deeply that is going to drop into the blade. Okay, so that's going to drop right in there, and that means that you've got a lot of travel to sort of deal with here. And doing it one-handed, you can see how I don't usually do this thing. This is pretty tough, and it's possible, but notice with a two-hand grip, with a one-hand close, I use the knuckle of my thumb, and that's how I do a lot of my cold steels. All right, so that's going to be a complaint that some people have. It's a complaint that people have put on my videos. Like, Kevin, I know you love cold steel, but man, that stupid tri lock is so stiff that it's really uncomfortable. And this one, I will say, sticks a little bit. If I deploy this hard, then when I go to release it, well, and you can even hear it. Hold on, there we go. So that's a pretty popped out. You can hear that little bit of stick. Now it's gone after I open it the first time, but there is a little bit of stick there. That's going to be noticeable, and especially for someone who's a little sensitive already to how hard that lock is to actuate, is really going to notice that stick. Okay. Finally, we've got this Grivery handle, which, it's not my favorite material, but honestly, in a budget knife, I have no issue with this. And um, than the aluminum liners. Okay. So again, it's not, would it be my first choice? Probably not. And this does end up being balanced. It's a little bit out of balance, blade heavy. That's not something that I really notice or care about all that much. I'm pretty much happy with it. So that's kind of what's going on in terms of features. The one thing that everyone has talked about with the cold steel is this super grippy texture. With this clip, it will tear your pants to shreds. And if you carry this every day, your pants are all going to tell the tale. All right. No other knife guy is going to walk by and not understand that you carry a pocket knife, because all your pockets are going to be shredded. Nut and Fancy famously did the JB Weld mod, where he would fill just the spot here under the clip in with JB Weld. That's fine. I don't usually bother. You can also take this off and just sand this a little bit, and just softening it down is often enough to make it not quite so hard on the pockets. Of course, this is going to have another clip, because you can see how it's bent like that. It's only going to work on one side, so there's a second clip included in the box. All right. So now we kind of know what's going on. How big is this really? Well, this is 12 1/8 overall. The blade is 5 3/8. The closed length, now I think they listed on the box as 6 3/4, but I'm getting 7 inches. Let's see. just in case someone's like, Kevin, the box is probably right. So, I mean, it's pretty darn close to 7 inches. So 6 and 7/8. All right. So it's quite large. The pocket clip being placed a little lower does mean it doesn't need quite as much depth in pocket, which is pretty nice. Um, and while it's large, it's not insanely large. And I think I've mentioned that earlier in the video. We've got 5 inches of grip area. Okay, so you've got a couple of possible positions here. This might be for some kind of a slashing motion if you're slashing bottles or something like that. Um, you yeah, you could chop with this, and of all the folding knives that are out there, I wouldn't recommend chopping with anything because impulse creates such huge forces that I just don't think it's wise. But if there ever was a folding knife that you could chop with, it would be a cold steel. Okay. Um, 7.8 ounces for a knife that's 12 inches long is not that bad. So that's the weight on this, 7.8 ounces. I've got folding knives that are like a fraction of this size that weigh that much. All right. So um, we have this great value proposition in the Voyager. It's the XL is big, but it's not like insanely big. As I say, I carried this around the house a little bit in preparation just to check it out, and it carried fine. I haven't carried it around, for a day or two, but I will come back in the full review and have more to say about how easy this is to carry. My suspicion is it's going to be pretty easy. All right. Um, do I recommend this knife? Absolutely. Does everyone need a folding knife this big? Probably not, but I mean, for the price that these go for, yeah, you kind of do. It's just so cool. Okay. It's big and a little bit over the top, but there are also a lot of applications where a great big knife like this would be super useful. And because this folds, I'm kind of moving into review territory here, but this would be great for like backpacking when you want like that full size kitchen knife. Ultra light backpacking, this would be ideal. Lots of times where you want a large knife, but you don't want to have to carry a full fixed blade with a sheath. This is ideal for a lot of different situations. I mean, and even as an EDC knife, it's a little big for EDC, but not crazy. Like you could realistically EDC this knife and it would not be the end of the world. So easy to recommend the Voyager series. I've had the smaller, the 4-inch version. I can't say enough about it. It's probably, a knife that doesn't get the love that it deserves. And in the XL version, it's great because it's not so insanely gigantic that it's completely impractical. It's still pretty practical and easily carried around, which is kind of mind-boggling to me. So there you go, guys. That's my initial thoughts on the XL drop point Voyager. If you don't have one, go ahead and pick one up because it's too budget friendly not to enjoy something as big and dramatic as this. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out those channel sponsors. We will talk to you soon.